Everybody, welcome back to Madhouse Unfiltered, presented by MJ Printing and Graphics. My name is Eric Messer, and this is episode 7 of the series. Today, I'm sitting down with 23-time Bowman Gray winner, Mike Robertson. Before we get started here, I just wanted to thank MJ Printing and Graphics for their presenting sponsorship of the series. Since 1983, Mark Joyce and his team have specialized in custom screen printing and vinyl graphics. So just visit mjcustomprinting.com today to learn how they can help your vision come to life. So what you up to, Mike?
What's going on, Eric?
You doing all right today?
Doing great.
You're coming off a good win last night.
Good win last night. Kind of a little down right now. I'm just tired, and but all in all, great weekend.
That's good. All right. Well, just kind of starting how we start with everybody here. How'd you get your start in racing?
Well, I guess I got started the day I was born, because ever since I was born, there's been a race car in my house. So I don't know anything different.
Right.
So, obviously, I grew up a mile and a half from Bowman Gray, and so just all I ever known is just Bowman Gray and race cars. So yeah, right. It was I was born with it.
Do you remember your first time behind the wheel of a stock car?
Oh yeah.
Tell me about
that. Well, there's several times behind the wheel. Most of the time, my dad was at work, and I'd sit in the seat. Yeah. And I learned how to go through the gears, through the sound. And but my actual first time, it was when they switched from blunderbuss to back then called the Buzz Bombers. Mm-hmm. So we took an old car out of a junkyard, put a cage in it. I bought it from a guy that used to sponsor me years ago, Dewey Bashirs, and put it together and went to, I think it was 1990.
Really?
First time me driving actually at Bowman Gray.
And how far was that into your father Gerald's career?
Well, obviously my dad had raced, all his life, so. It was so ironic though. The first time I was like 26, and before I actually drove myself, and I remember asking my dad, "Hey, what do you think about doing this?" And the first thing he says was, "Don't expect me to give you a dime, because I'm not." And he didn't. He never gave me $1 for my racing. He said, "If you want it, you go get it." And that's how I've had to do it myself. And but yeah, it was 1990. I was 26 years old. I'd been around it all my life, but never knew anything about what it was like to be behind the wheel, besides just seeing it and being a part of his team, being a part of other people's team. And the opportunity just came. I mean, my kids were getting some, they weren't toddlers at the time, so it was time.
All right, and so your brother Bryant also picked up racing around the same time as you did. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah, Bryant. He was a character. I remember the very first race we ever let Bryant drive. I think we put him in one of my buddies that just passed away, Todd Tilley's car, and me and Todd told him before the race, it's getting close, getting time to race. So we put him in the car about an hour and strapped him in before the race. And he was sitting there about every 10, 15 minutes. I'd go over and look at him. And about the 45-minute mark, his legs was doing this. So they take the green, he goes into one, he hits the wall, the ambulance comes out. It was a disaster. And I've got it on video. I'd love to see, I got to find that. But yeah, his legs was he was a trembling, and it showed when he took the green. But that was a lot of fun. And, Bryant's probably, he's never had the best of equipment, so you really can't judge how good of a driver he is. I have seen him when his car is good. Bryant's good, so he's having fun now doing the modified thing, and obviously he's underfunded, but with what he's trying to accomplish at his age, just have fun and be a part of it. So you got to commend him for that.
Right. I talk to him a lot. He says he tries to follow in his father's footsteps. Was that one of the big goals
Yeah,
for you as well?
obviously, my dad never had money. I remember as a kid when we would get a new tire, not 4, we would get 1 in a modified, and it was a big deal for us. Mm-hmm. The other 3 people gave to us that they took off, and but my dad had no pride, so he was. I never knew. I'll probably never know what kind of driver he was for the same reasons as Bryant. He never had the best of equipment, and in racing, it's hard to overcome equipment and dollars. I mean, your driving ability can overcome a lot, but it's just so hard. But yeah, Bryant and Dad had that same. That was their common denominator. They really never got to showcase their talent.
Right. So how soon did you find success at Bowman Gray Stadium? Do you remember your first win?
Oh yeah. 1990. Well, it was the first year of the 4 cylinders, called the Buzz Bombers. I think we probably run 15 races that year, 16 races. Dean Ward won 14 of them. And the only reason I think Michael Cox won 1, and I won the very last race of the season in 1990. And the only reason Dean didn't win those 2 is because after the 6th straight win, they started making him start in the rear. And back then, it was a lot of drivers that were, like myself, were new to racing.
Right.
So I mean, it was a weave fest. I mean, weaving in and out. But his car was so far superior to everyone. But as the weeks went on, we started looking at his car and spying what he's doing. We could never duplicate it, but such as when we would go to the racetrack, the first time our car was sitting up this high, and here come Dean, his car was this low off the ground, and we was like, wow. So we'd come home, cut springs, get it down. But yeah, I won the very last race of 1990, and followed it up in 91 with, I think Dean had moved on. Yeah. I think he went to Ace and dominated there. I think we won 2 races in 91, 3 races in 92. So yeah, we had some fun in the 4 cylinders. A lot of great drivers. You take Mitch Gales was one of the original Buzz Bombers. There's not many of us left. That's Charlie Curry. I don't think Charlie was an original member. I think the last 2 that's really there now, as far as from the initial class, is me and Mitch. Mm-hmm.
Right, and you've raced every division except the street stocks.
Never raced the street stock.
Yeah.
No, never raced the street stock. I practiced Bryant's obviously a lot of mornings but I've never raced street. Not for any other reason, just never have. But yeah, my modified career was a tank, but there wasn't much to talk about. I finished 10th one time, and you'd have thought I'd won the Daytona 500. I mean, I finished on the lead lap. I'll never forget Burt Myers finished 11th. And the only reason Burt Myers finished 11th, I think he spun or something. And I'll never forget, it was like, I don't know, a caution with 5 to go, and he come up beside of me under caution, and I didn't want to look at him. I knew what he was wanting. I need that spot. You're gonna give it to me, right? But I wasn't giving it to him. This was my first top 10, and top 10, that was big to me back in the. I didn't have no experience, and I didn't have the car, and didn't have the team, didn't have the backing, but I wanted to try it. And I found out really quick that modifieds were not for me.
Right. Yeah. And that was that area where Tim and Burt were starting to come into the scene, and Jimmy
Yeah,
Miller was dominating.
and it just takes so much. It's a different style of racing. I never adapted to it. Maybe if I'd have had a better piece, could have been. But I had fun with what we had. I had fun. I remember we went to Caraway and run an old Smart Tour race. And once again, I think I was 3-4 laps down at the end of the race. I got out of that car, and you'd have thought I'd won the Daytona 500. I mean, it was the most fun I'd ever had in a race car, because I could actually race. I mean, I wasn't at around the football field where when you're slow and you're off the pace, you're constantly on the inside. By the time you got an opening, the next guy's coming to lap you. So you really couldn't find any rhythm when you're off the pace at the stadium. But at Caraway, I could get up in the groove, and it was a lot of fun. So modifieds were not for me.
And so you have 23 wins at the stadium total. So you have 15 in the Sportsman and 8 in the stadium stocks. So, I mean, what did it mean to you, and what did it feel like to be able to win in multiple divisions at the stadium, knowing the competition?
Well, I got lucky a lot of times. Most of it, all of it was luck, because it was never any of it was skill. I was out of my family. I was probably the worst driver out of all of us, But I had a lot of. I've been fortunate through my career that one of the things that I learned early on was there's always someone smarter than me. So, you'll see a lot of people that can set their own cars up and do their own motors and all that. It's just not me. And, I see a lot of people bad-mouthing people that let people do their cars and all that. Well, I look at it this way. If you're smart, I'm in the tobacco business. I've been in the tobacco business all my life. So that's what I do for a living. These guys work on race cars for a living, set it up. So I learned early on to go to them. I started off, Mark Knott helped me in my first Sportsman car. Then as we progressed, I had, a guy named Kenneth Palmer, awesome friend. Then the Scott Hall, the great Greg Marlowe, to Bubba Gale, to now Dean Ward. I mean, those names are synonymous with, being able to make cars go fast.
Right. So, in total, the Robertson family as a whole has 47 wins at Bowman Gray between your dad, you,
Bryant,
Chase. Yep. So, what does it mean to everybody in your family to have a successful family tradition at the stadium?
Well, I mean, obviously it's rewarding. There's been a lot of things that's happened in the last couple years with the success of Chase that I wish my father would have been here to see.
Yeah. So, and what has it been like for you to see Bryant and Chase continue carrying that flag?
Well, obviously Chase is probably the best out of the whole group. You can't argue.
When he watches this.
Yeah, Brian. Brian, agree with you too. But obviously Chase's stats. I mean, you can't argue with him. So Chase is a special breed. He listens. He adapted to my philosophy and what I wanted and how I wanted to accomplish it. And he's just he's a smooth driver. Him and Ronnie Clifton, they talk all the time. Ronnie calls him Smooth Junior because Ronnie's the original Smooth.
Right.
So it's fun to see Chase have the success he's had, but more importantly, in the manner in which he's done it.
All right, so we have to talk about it. So how did your feud with Derek Stoltz come about?
Oh, that was, obviously that night was, I think Derek had won the first race. Mm-hmm. He must have drew 8th for the second. I don't know where he started in the second, but he was coming. He was destined. He was going to win too. And if I'm not mistaken, he may have been the last person to win double features in a Sportsman. Mm-hmm. But you know, Derek was on a mission. He was going to the front, and you know, Bryant was leading, and I was running second, and everybody thought I was blocking for Bryant. But I'm gonna tell you, if I could have passed Bryant, I'd have passed Bryant. I couldn't pass him. But when Derek got to me, obviously he dumped me, and I jumped out of my car and was trying to go rip out his MSD, and that was probably that was the dumbest thing I've ever done in a race car. Not Derek's fault. I take total responsibility for that, and luckily I didn't get hurt.
What was going through your mind when you're going down the track on the side of his car?
This ain't gonna end pretty. And luckily, I came inches from the guardrail and got up, and once I got up, I realized you just made a fool of yourself. And it's on YouTube for everybody to see, and Lord and behold, it went viral.
Yep.
And it went to all the local, national. I mean, it was on Good Morning America. You name it. That was at the time before the Madhouse really took off. That was just one of those videos that gave it that extra gas to catapult to the next level. And now it's what I done then it's nothing now compared to some of the things you see over there. But no hard feelings for Derek. Derek was one of the drivers when he was behind you. You had two choices: you either gonna outrun him or you better get out of his way. So and I respected him for that. But you know, when Chase started driving, Derek raced against Chase in Chase's rookie year, and you know, Derek showed respect to Chase because Chase gave it to him. And but no, when you say rivalry, I don't think I ever had a rivalry with anybody. I had some altercations, but I learned early on, I've been at the stadium all my life. If you're mad at them this week, after the next week's race, you're probably going to be mad at somebody else, and they're going to be mad at you. So you know, it's just one of those things. You just let it. You got to reset. You know, after every week, because each week's a new week. I think the thing that carried that episode was social media and the media. And but I consider Derek a friend.
That's good. So let's talk more about your kid's career. So Ryan, when did he start racing? When did he pick
Well,
up
Ryan
racing?
started when he was 14. We would take him over there and test. You know, we would, you know, Gray knew what we was doing. You know, that was at the time before you couldn't start before you were 16. So you know, we would take him over when he was 14, and we started him when he was 16. We bought a car. We had a new Dillon chassis out of Indiana. So there was about 6 of us. We went to Indianapolis, outside of Indianapolis, to Dillon Race Cars, and picked up a new chassis. And on our way, we got a speeding ticket in West Virginia. Then we stopped over this big cliff, and we just stopped because it was one of those scenes you just love to see. It was beautiful. And we was looking down over it, and Bryant looked at us all. He said, "This is a nice place to hide a body." I mean, who thinks of something like that, you know? So, yeah, that was an adventurous trip. So we built Ryan a brand new chassis. So he started when he was 16. He didn't have the success that Chase did at the stadium early on, but Ryan had success on bigger tracks. When we went to Martinsville, to Richmond, to Concord, places like that was where he excelled. And so yeah, Ryan made me nervous. Chase doesn't make me nervous. And I can't answer that question. It has nothing to do with Ryan's driving style versus Chase's driving style. I think it has to do with just the age of me, you know, and the comfort level that I have now, knowing what to expect in racing and how if they will listen, we'll be okay. And Chase does that.
Right, and that was kind of my next question. Were you nervous for Ryan and Chase to start racing, or
Well, obviously, if just like me, they grew up with a race car. Obviously, their human nature is they're gonna try it. And you know, with Chase, we didn't encourage it. He wanted it. With Ryan, I probably encouraged it with Ryan because I was at the age I was ready to step back from driving, and Ryan had everything. I mean, he had the look, he had talent, he had everything he needed to be successful, and it felt right for me to step back, and I was more. I wanted to be more of a role play. As a team owner than a driver. So when we drove against each other in several races, which obviously I beat him, but you know, yeah.
That's good. And what would you attribute to Ryan and Chase's success?
Well, they both came through a different time frame than myself. They had good equipment. You know, obviously as a team owner, my job is to give them the best that we can get. So their success is, you know, they got one job to do, and that's behind the wheel. My job is to give them the best piece that I can, and we've been very successful in that. We've had great partners. A lot of people do not understand what it takes behind the scenes to keep something like this going. And that's through, well, you know, through marketing, through partnerships, through partners. And you know, I'm constantly, today's sponsors, I'm looking for next year's before it ever even gets to that next year. So I'm constantly, the wheels are turning because this is a financially burdened sport. You know, it takes money. And, you know, we've been really fortunate. We've had so many great partners through the years, but yeah, they've been the beneficiary of great partners.
That's good. And Chase, talk about Chase a little bit more. So he started in the Sportsman Series in 2019, right? And he climbed the ranks quickly and just won the championship last year and the NASCAR Divisional Championship. So what's it been like for you to coach Chase through how quickly he's risen to success at the stadium?
One of the things that, you know, is you think about Chase is he started very young, but we used to take him over there and run the bandos. A testament to Greg Garrison and Jimmy Brown we would take him over there and let him run his bandos. He'd only get about 4 laps between the practice sessions, and they didn't have to do that, but they did. And I was a nervous wreck. I mean, he was 8, 9 years old, you know. So he'd come barreling down in there, and he had no fear. So, but just seeing what Chase was able to accomplish at an early age, and then taking him back in the day where we could run on the 602 tour before he was 14, and he's very successful. So then when we took him to Bowman Gray, and I think he won the Rookie of the Year, and then COVID hit. So when COVID hit, obviously the stadium was being owned by the city. They really had to stay to the guidelines that were set forth, but there was other tracks, you know, starting to get some momentum and open and give us opportunities to race. So I think during the COVID year, we won 3 races down at Caraway. And then when Bowman Gray opened back up, we we struggled that next year because we was switching cars, and it was a disaster. It was the worst year we'd ever had. We had tore the car up so much we didn't buy body parts. We would everything we'd tear up we would save, and we would take a 5-star fender and put it on an AR. I think at the time we was running AR bodies, and it was a half breed. It was patched. I mean, it got so bad. The rear window was busted. The top was busted. The windshield. I mean, he got hit every which way but loose. But we didn't have him. You know, your driver is only good. We didn't have him a good piece, and that fell on me. So that's when I started. Obviously, after that, I sought the help of Bubba Gale. He kind of got us going in a better direction, and then after that, we put Chase with Dylan, and obviously the results speak for themselves.
Right. And kind of starting to wrap up here, so dive back into you here a little bit. If you were to get back into the car today, would there be anything that you're still chasing in a racing career, or are you?
I mean, I would. You know, one of the things I'd like to do is race against Chase. I'm never raced against him. We'll see. I still like to test. I test one time this year, and lo and behold, they sent me out there in the car. The rear end was loose. The rear end was going back and forth. It looked like I'd never drove before in my entire life. It was pathetic. I mean, I looked horrible. But the rear end was moving. You're never going to get around the track if your rear end's moving. So that was partly that shattered my little confidence. And I hadn't been back in it since, and just no other reason besides just been busy focusing on other things.
Right. And who would you consider to be most influential to your success as a driver?
Obviously, my dad growing up was my hero, still is. So, but I mean, you got to remember, I grew up at Bowman Gray. I seen the legends come through. Me and a guy named Jeff McBride would walk. At 1 o'clock, we would leave my house, and you know, it was only a mile and a half. Well, you know, I was 9, 10 years old. We'd walk to the stadium, and I mean, I knew Richie Evans personally, Jerry Cook, Ralph Brinkley, Don Smith, James Call, Bubba Beck. I mean, Lloyd Ashby. All these were my local childhood heroes, and my dad was, you know, he was there. So, you know. All of those guys, Johnny Bryant. I mean, I seen Johnny Bryant win a 350-lap race with a cast on his hand because he got in a fight the day before at a racetrack. So, I mean, these are real races. This was way before power steering ever came about. I mean, back when they would run the Winston 350, they'd have relief drivers. Mm-hmm. So, you know, I remember motorcycle races at the stadium. They'd haul dirt. It'd take the hour to get the dirt down and then run motorcycle races. So, you know, I had an opportunity to see the great era. You know, I consider the 70s probably some of the best. I mean, if you've seen Ralph Brinkley drive, he'd roll his sleeves up to right here. You knew he was ready to go. He meant business. Right. So Paul Radford, all of them, Satch Worley. I had the opportunity to be a part and witness and know them, you know, because I was a little kid. I would wax their car. I'd go over there early for my dad to get there, and I'd go around and clean all their cars. So, you know, the prize was they'd give me candy. So had a good time. But, you know, as far as heroes and people that were, you know, that really shaped me, I would have to go to my dad, just because his work ethic. He taught me his same routine as what I do today. I work, I come home, and I go to the shop. Guys come over, and we have camaraderie, we have friendship, we have teamwork, and that's the way it was 50 years ago.
Right.
So it hadn't changed. The only things that's changed is the race cars. I mean, they're still race cars. They don't look the same, but it's the same philosophy.
Right.
If you're gonna leave it on the trailer every week and never work on it, you're not gonna win. So you got to put some effort into it. You got to dig, and I've been fortunate to have some great young guys that's come here in the latter part of of our racing. That's just, it's been probably the biggest blessing. We call them the Wally heads. They are such they're great kids, young men, but they come from great families, and it shows. They're respectful, they're fun, they're hardworking. Braden Mills has been my sidekick ever since he started. I mean, I trust Braden with anything in my race car to do. I don't have to look behind him. Tucker Myers, Gage Williams, Peanut's been with me forever. We got so many new ones, Derek Barnes, Mark Faust through the years. The list goes on and on. So obviously you got to have a great support cast, because I don't pay them. A lot of these guys, they give up their days, they give up their nights, they give up their weekends. So you gotta be a special breed to do that. And they love the sport, to see them win last night and see the smile on their face. And, it's, that's why I do it. That's why I do it.
So kind of starting to wrap up here. So what would you say is probably one of the most important lessons that you've taught Ryan and Chase and the rest of your team?
Well, I try to teach them not to take anything for granted, through help, through sponsorship, through partnerships. They're not easy to. They're easy to get. They're harder to keep. So if you can get a partnership that with a sponsor, and hopefully they can see the value in it. And one of the things we try to do is keep our partnerships engaged through coming to the track, or through our social media aspect, and we try to give back. We try to give more than we take. So that's a key to any. You can use that analogy in life in itself. Is I'd rather be on the giving end than the receiving. So that's one of the reasons that I put so many different people in my cars, is just letting them have that opportunity to see what it's like. I can't pay them, so one of the things I can do is strap them in, let them have some fun, and see the smile on their face is worth everything. That's how Braden got his start. That's how Tucker has drove, and Gage, and Blake, and Blaine Curry's drove some this year, AJ Sanders, and obviously Dylan done the car justice last night, and we keep a backup. We had it for Ryan, and then Ryan closed on a house down at the lake, so all of his attention has been through that endeavor. So kind of put Brian back on the back burner. But one of the lessons is just giving back and never taking anything for granted, because as we won the first race, we had a gap of like 8 weeks before we won again, and that's a long 8 weeks when you're used to winning.
Right.
So when we won last night, I don't know when we'll win again. I hope it's this week. I hope it's next week. But you never know. So don't take anything for granted.
Right. And one last thing here: is there any more funny stories or anything that you can tell us about the stadium or your career? Or?
Well, I was thinking, back in the day when we would close the stadium at 12 o'clock after morning practice, we would act like we were loading up, and everybody would leave. And back then, everybody would leave. There wouldn't be a lot of people that stood around, and now you go over there, somebody always there. But me and my crew crew chief, Kenneth Palmer, we was battling motor issues, and we'd blown a head gasket that morning, and so we started working on it, and everybody thought we was just going to stay there and work. Well, we did, but when we got it back together, we was making runs at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the afternoon when everybody was gone, and we got caught, and we got in a little trouble, but they let us race, but we realized then that we probably shouldn't have been on the track without them knowing it, and so that was not a very pleasant conversation, but it's been Gray's been good to work with, and looking forward to seeing what the stadium has up its sleeve for the future. So there's a lot of changes probably coming. Changes is hard for people that's of age. We're used to the same thing. Yeah. But yeah, looking forward to seeing what the future holds.
That's good. Well, I just want to thank you again for being on. I'll give you this opportunity here to thank your family, your partners, your Wally heads, whoever you need to thank.
Well, first of all, I got to thank the Lord above for keeping me safe through all these years, through all my stupidity, through all my hard knocks. I'm one of those that learns the hard way instead of any other way. So, but we've had great partners throughout the years. Obviously, the drivers that I've had the opportunity to be associated with, it's a who's who, and I had the late Rodney Cook come to me one time and say, "Hey, I've never been to the stadium. What do you think about me driving one of your cars?" And I said, "You want to drive a stadium, Rodney?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "All right." So we put a deal together. He the most respectful guy. He came over there that morning, him and his brother, a couple other guys, and Rodney had won everything in the Southeast. I mean, he didn't need to come to the stadium to put anything on his belt. But he came over there, and he was so respectful because he came to me before the race, and he said, "I drew here, but I think I'm going to go to the back because, these guys are racing for points, and I'm here just to have fun." And he got out there, and he didn't drive the car to his ability. He didn't want to. He wanted to be a part of the stadium. So, to see him do that, and then Scott Hall and A.J. Sanders to Greg Marlowe to all of these other guys. Dylan Ward last night put on a phenomenal show in our car that we're putting together. The partnerships throughout the years has been tremendous through Sheets, through Winston-Salem State. Jerry Hunt Supercenter's always been on our cars. It's more than a sponsorship. It's a friendship that's carried through the years. We've got East Coast Wings, Sammy Sliders, Ava Cupcakes, Wahlberg Grill and Pizzeria, David Kinley Services, Thornburg Construction, Swift Springs, Hank Thomas Performance. Gosh, I can't remember. I give Chase a list so he doesn't forget, and I know I'm missing somebody. Brian Hayes, he's came on board this year. Been a tremendous partner. Enjoy going to lunch with him, eat dinner with him. Partnerships are something that I value.
Yep.
So thanks to everyone that's been supportive of us throughout the years.
Awesome. All right. Well, like I said, thank you again for being on.
All right.
Everybody, thank you all for tuning in. So stay tuned here for more as we'll have some exciting guests here in the coming weeks, and be sure to like and subscribe for more. Thank you guys. Appreciate y'all.